I never imagined I'd witness a grown woman perched atop her SUV, shrieking at the top of her lungs, gripping a half-eaten s'more in one hand and brandishing a broken marshmallow stick in the other like a makeshift weapon. Below her, my 120-pound Doberman, Zeus, circled like a predator, his deep, guttural growl cutting through the night air. Campers were strewn across my property, some sprinting for their cars, others diving into tents, as Zeus roamed the chaos like a beast from a dystopian film. This mess didn't happen by chance. It all traced back to one person, Linda Grayson, the self-appointed ruler of the Homeowners Association, HOA. Linda had turned my life into a relentless psychological battle. It wasn't enough that she'd spent the past 6 months nitpicking my fence color or the state of my driveway. No, Linda decided my land, property I'd bought fair and square, was somehow community territory. That's how I ended up with 100 strangers roasting hot dogs, strumming guitars, and turning my quiet retreat into a budget summer camp. It started a week earlier. I'd been living on my secluded lot for a couple of years, savoring the solitude. My dogs, Zeus, Athena, and Hercules, roamed freely, more family than pets. They weren't aggressive unless provoked, but they were loyal, protective, and sharp enough to sense trouble. Linda despised them, constantly whining to the HOA about dangerous animals on my land, even though I wasn't part of their group. I mostly ignored her. The last time she confronted me, she stood at my driveway's edge in oversized sunglasses and a crisp blouse, wagging her finger like a scolding teacher. "Your dogs are a menace," she snapped. "They bark at every car that passes." "That's what dogs do," I replied, shrugging. "Well, the HOA will hear about this." "I'm not in the HOA. You still live in this community," she huffed. I should have known she wouldn't let it go. That Friday, I went into town for errands. When I returned, my heart sank. Tents, at least 24, dotted my property. Cars lined the dirt road to my cabin, smoke curled from fire pits, and music blared from portable speakers. Kids shrieked, running across my lawn like it was a playground. Strangers lounged in camping chairs, sipping beers and laughing like they were at a resort. I parked, slammed my door, and stormed toward the biggest tent. There she was, Linda, perched by a snack-laden table, beaming. "What the hell is this?" I demanded. "Oh," she said with mock surprise. "I didn't think you'd be back so soon." "What is this?" I repeated, voice tight. "Relax," she scoffed. "It's a charity camping event for the community. We needed space, and your land's just sitting here. You didn't ask me. I mentioned it at the last HOA meeting," she said smugly. "Since you never show, I assumed you wouldn't mind." "You assumed wrong. Everyone needs to leave. Now." Linda smirked, arms crossed. "Oh, you're such a killjoy. The kids are having fun. We'll be gone by Sunday night. You should be glad we're using this land for something good." Before I could reply, a teen barreled past, nearly toppling a fire pit. Linda just laughed. "Don't be so uptight," she said. "What are you going to do, call the cops?" I stood there, fuming. Calling the police might eventually clear them out, but Linda would twist the story, play the victim, and paint me as the grumpy recluse who hated kids. I knew her tactics. This wasn't her first shot at me. I had a better plan. I went home, checked my security footage, and saw them everywhere. A sprawling mess of people, campfires, and food. Linda toasted marshmallows like she owned the place. I turned to Zeus, Athena, and Hercules, waiting eagerly by the door. "Time to get to work," I muttered. That night, as the campers partied, I unleashed my dogs. Zeus moved like a shadow, Athena stalked the tree line like a wolf, and Hercules strode through the tents with unshakable confidence. The first scream came when Zeus bared his teeth beside a picnic table. A woman shrieked, her hot dogs flying as she scrambled away. Athena's sharp bark sliced through the air near the tents. Hercules parked himself on the main path, growling low and steady. Panic erupted. Campers bolted for their cars, kids wailed as parents scooped them up, and sparks flew from a fire pit in the mayhem. I watched from my porch, sipping a beer, grinning. Then there was Linda, backed against her SUV, Zeus pacing before her like a sentinel. "Somebody do something," she wailed. "Maybe ask the HOA," I called out. In under 20 minutes, every camper fled. Linda scrambled down from her SUV's roof, muddy and soaked from a sudden downpour, glaring at me. "You'll regret this," she spat. Funny, I said, heading inside. I thought you'd thank me for protecting my property. Zeus, Athena, and Hercules followed, tails wagging like they'd just won a championship. Linda's shouts faded into the crickets and thunder. She wasn't one to lose quietly, though. 2 days later, she returned, clipboard in hand, smug as ever. I was stacking firewood when her heels clicked down my driveway. The dog's eyes snapped to her. Hercules growled low. "Oh, relax," she waved dismissively. "I'm not trespassing. Just giving you a heads up." "For what?" I asked, setting down the wood. Her smile widened. "I checked with the county. There's an old easement law allowing public access across certain rural properties. Yours qualifies." "That's ridiculous," I muttered. "Oh no," she said, tapping her clipboard. "It's legal. Your land's open for community events, hiking groups, and, oh yes, camping." "You're kidding." "I warned you," she said, turning away. "You can't live out here like a hermit and expect us to respect your silly rules. The community deserves access, and I'll make sure they get it." The next morning, voices woke me, lots of them. Outside, Linda led a dozen people down my driveway in a fluorescent hiking vest, her group toting backpacks, walking sticks, and picnic baskets. Kids chased each other near my garden. 2 guys set up a rest area by my fence. "You can't just show up," I shouted. Linda grinned. "It's a hiking tour. Perfectly legal under the easement." I clenched my fists, knowing a public argument would only fuel her narrative. Instead, I let her little parade continue, but I had a plan. That night, I posted signs around my property. "Caution, aggressive guard dogs. Proceed at your own risk." I rigged motion sensors to trigger lights in my dogs. Sure enough, her next group hesitated at the signs. Linda scoffed, "He's bluffing. His dogs are harmless." Zeus stepped into the light, eyes locked on her, growling deep. "I wouldn't test that," I called from the porch. The hikers retreated. Linda shot me a venomous glare. 2 days later, I found beer bottles, cigarette butts, and fast food wrappers strewn across my land. My gate's ropes were cut, leaving it sagging. Linda was trying to frame my property as a trouble spot she could fix, with community oversight. I cleaned up, cursing her silently. That night, Athena growled, ears perked. I spotted 2 figures slipping through the woods. Linda's sabotage was escalating. I fought back smarter. I filed a police report for trespassing and vandalism. When officers questioned her, Linda's smugness wavered. Then I installed real surveillance cameras. It didn't take long to catch her. One midnight, my phone pinged. Cameras showed Linda and her HOA cronies sneaking onto my land with a banner. "Welcome to Grayson's Wildlife Preserve, open to all." I let my dogs loose, following quietly. Linda froze as Zeus locked eyes on her wrist, holding the banner. "I think you forgot to ask," I called from the shadows. She spun, pale. Athena bared her teeth. The cronies bolted. "You wouldn't dare," Linda snapped. "Wouldn't I?" I whistled. Hercules lunged, tearing the banner in half. Linda tripped over a root, landing in mud. "This isn't over," she shrieked, fleeing. The torn banner lay in the dirt, a fitting trophy. Linda's next move was bigger. One Saturday, I woke to trucks and vans blocking my driveway. People unloaded tables, strung banners, and dragged coolers across my lawn. Linda, in a red blazer, held a clipboard. "Don't you dare," I growled. "It's happening," she chirped. "A charity festival. Music, games, food vendors. Wonderful, right? This is my property. It's for a good cause," she cooed. "The whole town's invited. You wouldn't want to look like the bad guy, would you?" She'd brought the community to shield her power play. By noon, tents lined my land, vendors grilled, and a stage screeched with off-key music. Kids trampled my garden, my dogs paced anxiously. Linda smirked at me through the crowd. I wasn't letting her win. I watched via cameras, then unleashed the dogs. Zeus snatched hamburger buns from a tent, scattering kids. Athena yanked the stage's power cord, silencing the band. Hercules hit Linda's prize booth, scattering her fundraiser cash with glee. The festival crumbled, vendors left, parents dragged kids away, and Linda's blazer was smeared with mud and sauce. "You think this is funny?" she screamed. "Poetic," I replied. "This is harassment. Trespassing and an illegal festival are worse. Call the cops, I dare you." She stomped off, her event in ruins. A news van rolled up that evening. Hercules' cash caper had gone viral. I declined an interview, wanting peace, not fame. But Linda tried one last smear, claiming online my dogs were vicious. The viral video, showing Zeus wagging his tail, Athena calmly unplugging cords, and Hercules playing, proved her wrong. Locals debunked her lies. The HOA ousted her as president. Things calmed until nails appeared on my driveway. My mailbox was smashed and my garden trashed. Cameras caught Linda dumping spoiled meat one night. I sent the footage to the sheriff. She got a citation, fuming. Then she filed an animal control complaint, alleging my dogs were a menace. Officer Daniels visited, met my well-behaved trio, saw my footage, and closed the case, reporting Linda for false claims. Her final stand came in person. "You think you've won?" she spat. "I have friends on the HOA board." "You've embarrassed yourself for months," I said. "Apologize publicly, or I'll keep going," she demanded. I laughed. "Leave, or I call the sheriff." She stormed off. A week later, a moving truck arrived at her house. She was leaving, defeated by her own schemes. A bitter letter arrived later, whining about her new dog-free condo life. I tossed it, grilled steaks for Zeus, Athena, and Hercules, and enjoyed the peace they'd fought for.